Hello and welcome to the Taurus Cup CM13 guide. This is actually the second time that we have had a Taurus Cup, and it will be the last, so if you are looking to get that Taurus title, now is your opportunity. The Taurus Cup takes place at the Japanese Derby, which is a 2400 medium track. It is standard distance with firm conditions and sunny days. This race course takes place in spring, and it is on the Tokyo race course, which is left-handed. So these are all of the listed greens for this course. Here's the Taurus Cup racetrack. As you can see, the acceleration zone, which is when the yellow here turns into the red, starts on a late race corner. Crucially, it does start on corner 3, just a few meters before corner 4 begins. So this means that the acceleration zone does not start on a late race straight. So skills like straightaway spurt or Victoria per plancha, give mummy a hug, those kinds of skills are not going to have an effect on this race course, so please do not take them on your aces. What you should be taking instead is Red Shift. So Red Shift is an acceleration from the original Maruzensky, who is often dubbed Red Maruzensky. Red Maruzensky's unique will trigger at the beginning of corner 4, which again is a couple meters after the late race begins. It's still early enough to be a very effective acceleration. Red Shift is also a first place through 5th place acceleration. This makes it one of the widest acceleration windows in the entire game. Every single Uma in every single position should be taking Red Shift. Red Shift is basically mandatory for the Japanese Derby. You need to have a Red Maruzensky parent because everybody else also will have a Red Maruzensky parent. It's just that good. One of the reasons that the Japanese Derby is so highly regarded as a champion beating track is because basically every single Uma gets this 0.2 acceleration as long as they can hit 5th place or above. So we take Red Shift, we don't skip Red Shift, even if it means we have to borrow a Maruzensky, even if it means we have to parent from a Maruzensky, even if it means we have to take a little bit of an affinity hit because Maruzensky does not have a very high affinity. Additionally, because the late race does start on a corner, we do get access to all of the typical late race corner excels, which is angling and scheming for 1st place, let's pump some iron for 6th place, and moving past and beyond for 5th and 6th place. All 3 of these have that perfect proc, and you are going to combine them with Red Shift. Again, we are taking Red Shift no matter what. Depending on the positioning that you think your Uma might be in, you will also be taking one of these skills. Again, because everyone has access to Red Shift, everyone is viable. Fronts will take Red Shift plus angling and scheming. Pace will take Red Shift plus head-on and /or nimble nav, which unfortunately is not going to be as reliable as other positions. Lates and ends will take Red Shift plus moving past and beyond. Optionally, they can take Let's Pump Some Iron if you have Medu Orion in a grandparent slot and you manage to inherit that acceleration. We will run Red Shift on our backliners because 1st place through 5th place is very generous. If we cannot hit 5th place by the early late race, your backliner is probably not going to be winning anyway, so we assume that you will be pushing up into these positions by the late race, and so we are going to take Red Shift on them regardless. Now, another interesting factor of the fact that basically every Uma has access to acceleration is that top speed will matter, because everyone is going to hit top speed sooner, because the 2400 meter is the longest that a medium track can be, which means that you'll be spending longer at your top speed. So everyone is accelerating to their top speed faster, so they'll be spending more time at their top speed. This means that top speed differentials is going to be a big make or break between aces. So medium S is often going to be the difference between winning and losing. I really want to encourage people to try to get medium Fs if at all possible. Honestly, what I have started doing and what has helped me out a lot is to just quit out of the run if I don't get medium S in the first inspiration. It sounds a little bit dramatic, but given how long Track Blazer runs take and how many people I've seen get really frustrated because they've rolled a really nice ace that doesn't have medium S, I would really encourage you to just restart if you hit that first inspiration and don't have medium S. It saves you a lot of time, it saves you a lot of sanity. Yes, you can still hit medium S in the second inspiration, but at that time, you've already sunk so long into your run that if you don't hit it, it's going to be really sad. And I really want to encourage people to try to get that medium S. I do think that stacking speed greens will also be a huge bonus, so if you have the Narita Top Road speed card for Firm Course Menace, I think that's going to be very strong because of this final stretch. Spring Runner and Left-Handed are also going to be greens that you can take for additional speed. Another interesting part about the Taurus Cup is that it takes place on the Tokyo Racecourse, and as you might remember from CM7, the Tokyo Racecourse has a very long final stretch which encourages the dueling mechanic. With dueling, it means on the final straight, which is again very long on the Tokyo Racecourse, if Umas are close enough together both in lanes, if they're not like too far away from each other in different lanes, and if they're close enough together in the front or back, and if they're moving at a similar speed, they're going to burn more stamina to increase their speed and acceleration relative to their gut stat until they run out of stamina. This means that they're going to be pushing one another up and up and up and up, which means that they are able to increase their top speed even more. Now, this isn't usually a huge factor, but because the final straight here is so long, it's definitely something that we want to consider when we are building aces. So let's talk about fronts. I do think that triple fronts is viable. 3 fronts is going to help to position block backliners from redshift slots, which means that you'll be slightly less threatened by lates and ends. If you remember the triple front comp from CM7, it is actually a pretty similar theory, except in CM7 we had a little bit more access to different accelerations, whereas in CM13, triple front is going to have a little bit less access to acceleration because we don't have accelerations such as shooting for victory, and redshift does work on everyone. A double front and pace comp is also going to be pretty good. This gives your pace chaser an overtake or nimble navigator target when they are pushing up into the front pack. Now, for this to work, your pace does need to be well built enough to push them to the front pack by the late race. But here you can run pace chasers that have overtake uniques such as Special Week or Meisho Doto, which will help them to kind of really be able to push up and activate those uniques for the late race. Now, crucially, because fronts have the lowest coefficient for their late race speed and acceleration, fronts need a very high top speed to try to fight off backliners that are encroaching on them. So for fronts, I do really want to stress that you want medium S. I would like to say that you also probably want that firm course menace, and you're going to be really looking for that left-handed and /or that spring runner green. Because redshift is so strong, Red Maru should be strong too, except front Red Maru actually does suffer quite a bit due to lack of mid-race in her kit. So she's competing for that angling and scheming slot versus Umas like Valentine Bourbon, Summer Marzensky, and Saiyan Sky, who all have a little bit better mid-race in their kit than she does. You might think to yourself, well, Red Maru acceleration is a 0.4, and a frontrunner who is in first place will have a 0.2 with angling and scheming and a 0.2 with redshift, which is just a 0.4. So even if Red Maru is in second place, she should have the same amount of acceleration as the front in first place, which is true to an extent. Because if Red Maru is starting the late race from a position that's already behind first place and she gets the exact same acceleration to first place, how is she going to overtake first place when she starts from behind and they have the same acceleration and velocity coefficient because they're both fronts? If she has a much higher top speed than the front in first place, then it's possible for her to still overtake. If she has better late race skills, such as the New Year TM Opera O's inherit, maybe she can still overtake, but she's kind of fighting an uphill battle here, and it's difficult to really make her work. Even if Red Maru does not really have a lot of competition for first place, then she might not be able to build enough of a gap between herself and the backliners who will be encroaching on her. She will have difficulty building enough space without unique skills like Operation Cacao and Kiss for Courage to really be able to position herself well enough to defend her first place slot against the backliners. So it is tricky to make her work as a front. Unfortunately, she does have a pace aptitude of E, a late and end aptitude of G. This means that it is also tricky to force her into a different running style to have her try to work that way, but I do think that that could actually be a really fun way to run her. Pace chasers. So pace chasers have no additional reliable accelerations other than red shift, but you can still take head on or neck and neck from that Daiwa Scarlet card that released recently. You can also take Nimble Nav. You could try to take No Stopping Me if you can fit the Yukino Bijin Wit card into your deck, but those are all a little bit more RNG options, so it's going to be trickier for your pace chaser to reliably have that secondary Accel to help catapult them up into first place. Now, that being said, I don't think that it's actually all doom and gloom for pace chasers. Pace chasers can run interesting like triple pace or double pace compositions, which can help them with nimble nav targeting, where nimble nav can actually target if you're side blocked, right? So if you're side blocked by another pace chaser as you're moving into late race, then maybe you hit Nimble Nav off of them and you have a good opportunity to win. Triple Pace can also just have a good dual opportunities when you're having all three of your Umas trying to accelerate with the same amount of acceleration and you're all pushing into the late race. Pace will also pair pretty well with front runners, but they won't pair quite as well with backliners. So when you're thinking about your team comps, you want to think about what can help this Uma win. Now, if you need backliners to be able to overtake someone, like for example, if you're running like a Tamamo Cross, maybe you do still want to run a Pace Chaser with her so that she can have an overtake target. On the topic of pace, I do think that Christmas Oguri is stronger than an average Pace Chaser, but she's not as good as she was in CM12. This is for a couple different reasons. Firstly, 777's Proc's Festive Miracle is slightly delayed. It procs Festive Miracle at about the exact same time that Redshift will proc, which is fine. I mean, everybody's taking Redshift, so that's good, except in CM12, she was actually proccing Festive Miracle so that she could get that velocity and acceleration carry over into the final spurt, which was why she was so strong. And additionally, she's also suffering a little bit more here because she doesn't have a guaranteed second trigger recovery like Uma Squared was in CM12. So she doesn't have another recovery that can kind of guarantee that she hits Festive Miracle at a good time. She either has to take a fourth recovery just for insurance that she hits it and maybe RNG if she hits it at the right time or not, or she only takes 3 and just doesn't hit Festive Miracle at all if she whiffs. Still, slightly delayed acceleration is still good, and I think that it still puts her a little bit above a lot of typical Pace Chasers, but I don't think that it is as strong as it was in CM12. It is nice too though because you can understand on Christmas Oguri and you don't have to waste SP on Nimble Navigator or Head On or any other accelerations that you might have to do on another Pace Chaser. She's still pretty efficient in terms of stats and SP, it just means that she won't be quite as crazy as she used to be, which is honestly I think maybe for the best. So late surges. So lates will have access to 3 accelerations, but you always want to take Red Shift. If you're taking Red Shift, you pair that with Moving Past and Beyond or Pump Some Iron. There's pros and cons to both. Moving Past and Beyond will just not work if you get rushed, which is a little bit annoying, but Pump Some Iron only works from 6th place, which means that your window for that acceleration is much narrower. The idea of taking Red Shift with Moving Past and Beyond or Pump Some Iron is if you are in 6th, be in 5th. Those accelerations will push you up into 5th place, which is where you can hit Red Shift from and start to catapult yourself up into 1st. For a triple late composition, you really are pushing for the late slot win con, which is going to be that 5th place where you can hit Moving Past and Beyond and Red Shift at the same time. Triple late is fun because they all have really, really strong winning positions. You are able to hit any of these combinations of positions and still have a solid win condition for the lobby. This means that lates are actually in a really fun slot to CM, and I think that a lot of people are going to enjoy running late aces. Additionally, triple lates can run the same kind of idea as a Pace Chaser. They can run Nimble Navs, or they can run Overtake Uniques, or they can just try to duel one another in the final straight. You can also run double lates. If you run double lates, you can run them with an end closer who will push you up into the position in the lobby, which might help you to get to 5th place a little bit easier. Or if you run a pace might push you down into position in the lobby, but you're still ultimately trying to secure that 5th place. For a late surger, for a double late, you can get your Nimble Navigator proc off of a Pace Chaser if you run them with a Pace Chaser, or you can also run your late surgers as double dom hybrids to support a main ace, similar to what we have seen in CM12. Late surger dominators are still absolutely viable, and those are going to be Agnes Tachyon, Grass Wonder, Simbali Rudolph, and Valentine Asian Flash. Additionally, lates have another Dominator addition, which is going to be Cheerleader Nice Nature. Lates can also run Stamina Debuff. Now, unlike CM12, where stamina requirements were relatively low because it was a 2,000 meter track with a significant downhill, as well as the fact that the main meta Uma was just impossible to stam out, stamina debuffs are actually very real here because the stamina thresholds for this track are going to be pretty high. And so I think that it is possible that a lot of people will be understamming or borderline stamming their Umas, which means that you can run the original Nice Nature with her Mystifying Murmur and her All-Seeing Eyes, and then try to take out a couple Umas on your way to the finish line. Now for end closers, there is that caveat that you do want to wait for Mr. CB Wit card to release in order to build your end closers so that you can either borrow that or use that in your main deck. Luckily, you don't have to wait for long, as she should be the next card to release after the release of this video. For end closers, you can run Triple End, which is going to have similar pros and cons to other triple comps. Triple End is going to claim 7th, 8th, and 9th by default, which means that you will need some mid-range to push into 6th place in order to proc Let's Pump Some Iron or Moving Past and Beyond to springboard into 5th place for Red Shift, because end closers are still taking Red Shift. Daring Strike, which is on both the Ayabe Power card and the upcoming Mr. CB Wit card, is going to be really, really big for end closers because you want to build a lot of that mid-race in order to hit your acceleration positions. You can also build end as a solo ace end closer with 2 late debuffers, which will help your end closer to push up in lobby positions as they pass your late debuffers. However, I would say that end closers with fronts or pace is not recommended because it will be harder for them if you have a front-heavy lobby to actually get into the correct positions. Again, because the acceleration zone does not start on a straight, we are not taking straightaway spurt or encroaching shadow. So if anyone else has been here all the way back since CM1, you will remember that in CM1, Goldship was very, very dominant, and that is actually still the case here, because she is an end closer with a mid-race unique that helps her to push up into 5th place, basically for free. She also has a gold recovery in her kit, just in case she might low roll stamina, and she also has Umamusume in her kit, which since the 11-11 buffs is now very, very strong in early race in order to break that pace down mode to give her a better start in the race. Additionally, now that we're on Track Blazer, Goldship's aptitudes of having a C in mild, an A in medium, and an A in long really work for her because it lets her be very flexible in her Track Blazer career. She only really needs 1 mile spark from a grandparent in order to have a pretty easy career. So I would say that Goldship is probably our best free-to-play option and is in a really good spot. And again, Goldship does still want to inherit Redshift. She still wants to inherit one of the late Surger accelerations that hits at 6th place. But if she can get both of those, she basically procs Anchors Away and moves up pretty much for free. Now, Anchors Away will not hit if you're too far forward in the lobby, which could happen if you use Umamusume and, for example, Daring Strike to move up to 5th place. But if you're in 5th place, then you're already hitting your accelerations. So it's really a win-win for her no matter where she is positioned in the lobby. Even if she misses her unique, that means that she's hitting excels. So I think the Goldship remains a very strong option, just like she was in CM1. It would be remiss of me to not mention the solo ace strategy. So for folks who are kind of solo ace enthusiasts and want to really showcase your favorite character, this is the solo ace race course. This is because we have both stamina and velocity debuffs on the menu, and both of them will be very effective. This means that you can run your favorite character, and then you can run 2 major debuffers and try to make your favorite character so good that she just wins all the time. Now, a small caveat to this is that if your favorite character is a front, she will still need a second front, and I would really recommend you running a second front of your own, just in case you run into lobbies where there are no other fronts. Your front will not be able to build enough of a lead in the mid-race for her to maintain 1st place towards the end of the race if she is by herself. A solo ace strat is generally a strat to prove your dedication to a favorite character, and again, just as a note, your win rate might suffer a little bit, especially if your favorite character has a bad base kit. And then I want to talk about playing your favorites outside of solo ace, because I think that this is also an opportunity to run slightly unusual characters. I've detailed a lot about how to run favorite characters, unusual characters, non-meta characters in my How to Make Your Favorites Win video guide, which I'll link here. But I want to mention this a little bit here because this is an opportunity, I think, to run characters that you might not see a lot. And if you want to run these characters, there's a couple things you can do to help your win rate. Firstly, you can analyze their unique skill. Figure out how their unique skill procs, and then ask yourself, is there a way that I can make this unique skill proc more reliably with my own team building? For example, if your favorite character needs to overtake someone in order to proc a mid-race unique skill, you would probably want to run her with someone else in the same strategy to help them be able to push each other back and forth to proc that overtake. If your favorite character needs to be in a certain position to hit their unique, such as maybe 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, maybe they would need to be run as a pace chaser, and you wouldn't want to run many front runners with them because you don't want to push them back into 5th place on accident. So this is an opportunity to try to play to character strengths, such as their growths, their potential skills, their unique skills, as long as you're inheriting the right excels onto them, which, spoiler alert, is still Redshift, then I think that we can see a really, really diverse meta here, which is going to be really exciting. And now, just as a thought experiment to show you guys how this works a little bit, I will talk about Tosen Jordan. I don't think that Tosen Jordan is an extremely popular Uma. I almost never see her, and so I think that she's a good topic to discuss this whole concept of playing your favorites on. So with Tosen Jordan, we can look at her Pop and Polish unique. Her Pop and Polish unique happens when she is either about to be passed or when she is passing another runner on the final straight if she is in the first 2 or 3 Umas. So this means that she wants to be really pushed forward already in the final straight, but this unique can help her to close out the race with a lot of late race velocity. Now if we look at Tosen Jordan's kit, she has both Race Planner and On Your Left, which is kind of funny because Race Planner is a pace only skill and On Your Left is a late only skill. So we can think, okay, she has a pace recovery in her kit, and her unique also is more apt for running her as a pace chaser because of those hard position requirements. So if we are running her as a pace chaser, then we have access to a gold recovery skill, which might make it a little bit easier for her to survive with stamina debuffs or a little bit lower stamina than we might otherwise want. She also has On Your Left in her kit, and then we have to think, do we want to run a late with a random late race acceleration in a map where we have access to extremely good late race accelerations? I don't think that we want to invest the SP into On Your Left or even into Slick Surge because we have Pumps Some Iron, we have Moving Past and Beyond, and we have Redshift. And really any more than those is a little bit overkill when it comes to acceleration. And so in Tosen Jordan's case, if we run her as a late surger to access On Your Left, then we can't run her with Race Planner, so we don't have that backup recovery. So how are we going to help proc Tosen Jordan's unique? Can we run her in a triple pace comp where she is constantly overtaking or being overtaken? Can we run her with 2 fronts so that she has an overtake target on that final straight? Tosen Jordan also has All I've Got in her base kit, which is another final velocity skill which procs if she's positioned between 2nd and 5th place. So all in all, when we're looking at a Uma like Tosen Jordan, we can see that she does have a lot of late race velocity if she is well positioned, which means that we have to get her into that position for this to work. So adding more mid-race onto her so she's more competitive in the late race would be a good idea. Maybe we can go ahead and skip out on some of our late race velocity skills and pick up more mid-race velocity skills, such as our medium straightaways that she also has in her kit, or medium corners, or tail held high, or ramp up, or skills like that. Additionally, if we look at Tosen Jordan's growth rate, she has a 10% speed, a 10% power, and a 10% guts. This is actually kind of funny because it means that she has a really good opportunity to run a guts deck, which means that she can build her gut stat very, very high and can then increase her top speed even more if she gets into duels in the late race. So these are all kind of examples of things that you can think about when you're looking at Umas and trying to help them succeed. You want to try to use your estimation of what you might see in a race, and you want to try to work backwards from what your Uma's kit is trying to get you to do. So Tosen Jordan's kit wants her to be in 2nd or 3rd place on the final stretch, which means that we need to find ways to get her to that position. So in summary, everyone, please take Redshift. Pretty please take Redshift. Please take Redshift. I am begging you to take Redshift. After that, you can basically do whatever you want. Please take into consideration additional Accel options that you get from your position or your uniques if you have a unique with an acceleration. Additionally, you want to think about your final stretch speed, such as your medium S, your greens, and even final late race velocity skills that will help you to push forward, and the possibility of dueling. Then you want to think about your team positioning. How is your team positioning around one another? How are they helping one another getting into their position requirements? This is how that you're going to be able to build teams that will synergize with one another instead of just kind of racing independently of one another. You really, if you're running multiple aces, you want to put all of your aces in the position where they can win. And how do you do that in your team? If you're running one ace, you want to be able to make sure that you're putting your one ace in the position where she can win. And how are you going to do that with the rest of your team building? So I do think that CM13 is actually going to be a pretty interesting CM where we might see a lot of different strategies taking place, and this is because everybody will have access to the same core acceleration. So I highly encourage you to make sure that you can get that acceleration, and then also to think about what you want to run, what would make you the most happy to see in a CM, and try to run that. Thank you very much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.